Moscow, a show. The annual Olympic ball there on Thursday night, displaying the strength and attitude which Russia would still seek to associate with its sport, with its Olympic heritage. But its reputation was on the line in central London as the world waited again for a Canadian sports lawyer, Richard McLaren. The scale of Russian doping he described today, staggering.
The conspiracy was perpetrated from at least 2011 to 2015. Over 1,000 Russian athletes competing in summer, winter, and Paralympic sport can be identified as being involved in or benefiting from manipulation to conceal positive doping tests.
McLaren had already reported that Russian Secret Service agents inside the Sochi Winter Olympics anti-doping lab passed dirty samples from competitors and swapped them with clean ones through a hole in the wall. That process of making positive samples disappear was not limited to those games in 2014. In the build-up to the 2012 Summer Olympics, doping in Russia, McLaren says, became centralised. A cocktail of drugs was developed to beat testing thresholds. Doping was timed to ensure that traces had washed out. The consequence? Russia won 72 medals at the London Olympics and suffered no positive tests. But the idea that London hosted the clean games is now utterly impossible to believe when you listen to Professor McLaren.
The Russian Olympic team corrupted the London Games on an unprecedented scale, the extent of which will probably never be fully established. This corruption involved the ongoing use of prohibited substance, washout testing, and false reporting. The desire to win medals superseded their collective moral and ethical compass and Olympic values of fair play.
And now, well, in the Slovenian snow, Russian competitors are taking part today in the Biathlon World Cup. Their sport goes on. Russian track and field athletes were banned from the Rio Olympics. Other sports allowed Russians to compete. All Russians were barred from the Paralympics. But is Russia the extent of the issue? Anti-doping experts warn there's not currently the funding to find out.
A McLaren-type report could be undertaken on many more countries, if that were the case. But it needs a lot more finance and it needs a lot more of independence to be able to do that.
Russia's Olympic Committee suggests there's nothing new in the latest McLaren report. But however they dine and dress it up, Russia risks being left more exposed and isolated than ever before in the sporting world. Professor McLaren says his evidence came from forensics, lab analysis, emails, verbal testimony, and he's told the world it is conclusive. Jo Wilson, BBC News.
Well,